All right, so today we're going to be asking the question if we actually need Starlink to do van life, and the short answer to that is absolutely not, except if you're going like really off grid, like in BLM style territory, like in Arizona or New Mexico and stuff. But for the most part, you're absolutely not going to need Starlink, and I'll tell you what works instead. So what I personally do is I have this plan from Rogers that I recently upgraded for an extra $5. So I have it available in Canada, the US, and even in France for some reason. I don't know how I would end up in France, but anyways, so it's available in those three areas, and I have basically unlimited calling, unlimited texting, and I also have 265 gigs of data, 5G data, and LTE is unlimited. So all of that cost me $65 Canadian per month, which is like probably half of what Starlink would cost you. And before I was paying 60, and I had, I think, 120 gigs of data, something along those lines. So they actually added on data on top of that. So that's pretty cool. So now you might be wondering, what about the areas, you know, that have a little bit less reception, like state parks or like regional parks, that kind of stuff? Well, I've been on this road trip to the States. You know, I'm in Florida right now, and to be honest, actually, you know, the US is a bit better than Canada in most cases in terms of reception. Vermont and, New York and, actually New York was probably the worst one. But anyways, I didn't stick around there for long. I was just passing through. But basically what I do to circumvent that is I have a cell phone booster from Signal Bricks. Now they have a lot of models, and I did another video specifically going over the setup, so I'll leave a link to that. But basically a cell phone booster, as long as you have at least 1 bar of signal. If you have 0, it's a different story. It won't work at all, no matter how expensive it is. But as long as you have 1 bar of signal, you just, you know, you get one of those directional antennas. I actually have the one that is for, chalets and stuff, not for vehicles. Because the vehicle one is omnidirectional. It's designed to work while you're driving. You know, if you're like calling like while you're driving kind of thing, which would have helped actually in New York and stuff. But this one is like I set it up whenever I need it. So I just like mount the antenna to my rear ladder, and that's pretty much it, and it boosts the signal pretty well. Sometimes in zones where I only have LTE, it gives me 5G, and it like gives me full bars. And it's not a foolproof solution. Like sometimes it gives me the bars, but it doesn't really help the situation. But 9 out of 10 times so far, it has actually helped a lot. So like I said, it's like a temporary thing. I set it up when I need it. I take it down when I don't, which is kind of like what you would be doing with Starlink anyway. But for the most part, the data plan, it's been fantastic. I never run out of data. Like I watch videos, I'm watching podcasts while I'm driving, like while listening to them. And yeah, I've just never run out of data whatsoever. So, and like I said, the LTE is unlimited. So even if you did run out of 5G data, high speed data, you actually have unlimited LTE. So like it's a no-brainer for what it costs. And if anything, I would say, like, if you're planning to go off grid, you can actually just buy the Starlink dish and you don't have to subscribe to it. You can just subscribe to it whenever you're going to be using it. So that's the approach that I would take, and I'm curious what you guys think actually. So if you have any comments or suggestions or any stories that you have to share about Starlink versus like cell phone data kind of plans. And by the way, actually one thing I forgot to mention is that the Rogers plan also has the ability to add on satellite coverage for call and texting and certain apps, which uses Starlink actually. So it's an extra $15 a month if I'm not mistaken. So there's also that option. It won't give you internet, but it'll give you the other features that you need. So like I was about to say, if you have any suggestions or questions or whatever, leave them down in the comments. And that's pretty much all there is to it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right, guys, that's it for this one. If you're building something that's meant to last, whether it's a camper van, a business, or just a better way of living, I'm glad you're here. Everything I use, recommend, or offer is linked in the description. Take what works, build your own blueprint, and I'll see you in the next one.